Okay, so hopefully you had a chance to kind of use the different things that we worked on in this paragraph to create um, your second paragraph. So before I get into the heart of step 3, I just kind of wanted to go over a few different things just to kind of remind you. Remember, this is your introduction, this is body paragraph 1, this is body paragraph 2, and this is your conclusion. Your conclusion, your final paragraph, should include 2 different things: a takeaway, which is something that you learned, and then you're just restating your thesis, or you're just saying what you said in the beginning. Okay? And this is important because, like, when you make an argument, if you were to make an argument about needing $5, you would say all the reasons why you would need $5, and then at the end you would remind them, hey, I do need $5. So this is no different. Like, you're saying all the different things that you have to say in your paper, and then you're restating your thesis. Now, I totally forgot, and we'll go back to your hook. There are several different ways you can do a hook. I think there are 4 major ways. I want you to focus on a simile. So this whole thing, we're talking about cell phones, right? So cell phones are like blank because, and then why are they like that? So I'm thinking about it. And when I think of cell phones, I think of what I've learned from this paper is that they do have a place and time, right? But it's not all the time. So when I think of stuff like that, I think of like trash TV. Okay, I'm gonna give you a quick little insight in my life. I love 90 Day Fiance. It's something I'm not proud of. My wife likes to watch it, so I started watching it, and now it's just kind of grown on me, right? But I know that if there's a major event coming up, or there's an election, or something big is going down, I'm not going to watch 90 Day Fiance. I'm going to watch the news and try to figure out what's going on and try to be informed. So for me, the simile I can think of is like cell phones are like trash TV. Because there is a time and place for them, but school is not it. And that's kind of weak. I mean, it's not the best, but this is just a draft, so we're going to run with it. So I'm going to put it in here. Cell phones are like trash TV because how about this? Because sometimes you just have to turn it off. Much better, I think. But look, this is how it happens. Like, you write something down, right? And you think about it. And as you're writing it down for the second time, boom, you change it, right? So this is really the heart of step 3. Step 3 is kind of looking over your paper and then kind of tweaking certain things, right? So for me, like, one of the things that I'm really starting to get annoyed with is the word cell phones at the beginning of every sentence. So I'm coming through here and I'm gonna look how often I use the word cell phones. Yeah, okay. So okay. The other one is, I see a lot, is problems. Problem. All right. So maybe not so bad on that one. So then what I would do is I'm going to go through here, and I'm going to then take this information, right, and then I'm going to put it on the 26 line paper. But as I'm writing it, I'm going to make changes to it. And this is like the heart of step 3, right? This is like revising, or this is kind of editing as well, because we're looking at grammar as well, and we're looking at certain things, right? And we're playing around with things. If I say something in 20 sentences or 2 sentences, and I can say it in 1, I'd rather much say it in 1, right? So what I'm going to ask you to do is you're going to take this information all in your graphic organizer, and then you're just going to put it in a 26 line paper. Okay, real easy. You're just going to put it over there, and then that way you can kind of see how that needs to go. I apologize, I should have had this paper ready to go, but this is kind of what we're going to do. So, and then when it comes to the hook too, some people like to start off with a question. I think that's a little bit right? Here's the other thing. Now that we have all this written down, I want to try to bring trash TV somewhere in this paragraph. So we can't forget running theme. Okay? So let's see if we can do this. All right. So I said I want to start off with these 2 sentences. Cell phones are like trash TV because sometimes you just have to turn it off. And then I come into my thesis. Cell phones should not be allowed in school because they cause distractions and cause problems. Right? So this second cell phone is part of my thesis. This is more important. Right? So maybe there's a different way I can say cell phones. How about cellular devices? Devices are like trash. And then trash TV, I mean, it is proper noun because it's a specific type of TV, but grammar and stuff like that, they're not really going to look at too much, okay? It's like trash TV. I'm going to go ahead and capitalize it. Trash TV, because sometimes you just have to turn it off. Boom, there's my hook, right? And then I'm going to say cell phones should not be allowed in school because they cause distractions and then instead of saying and cause again, I'm going to say and lead to bigger problems. Because to me, that's even cooler. It's like saying, okay, so yeah, we all had this one way, and you're like, but I'm just checking the time. Yeah, it starts off as a distraction like that, but if it keeps happening and happening and happening, it leads and turns to a bigger problem. Right? So there's my first paragraph. Right? Now, I know back in the day they used to tell you to skip a line, but we only have 26 to deal with. So what I'm going to do is I should have indented a little bit more here, right, and started over here. But I definitely will indent right here, so that way they know, hey, this is his first paragraph, right? So it says cell phones should not be allowed in school because they are a distraction. Instead of saying it that way, how about we, though it may start off as a little problem, distractions from cell phones though it may start off as a little problem, distractions from cell phones are a huge reason why they should be banned from schools. Sorry, my lights just clicked off because I'm not making enough movement in here. All right. So it should be banned from schools. So I've said the exact thing that I wanted to say. I've said it in a different way. It's actually a little bit nicer, I think. And then I'm going to jump into it. And this one, we're going to be real basic in this first one, because the second paragraph is our better paragraph. It's our stronger reason. So I'm just going to go ahead and say a good example and I'm not going to say of how cell phones can distract, because we know what that. A good example of distraction in the class happens when students text. It's the same thing, just said in a different way, right? I could have said a good example of cell phones, of how cell phones can distract us, but instead I wanted to say a good example of distraction in the class happens when students text. Same thing, just said differently. And this is the major part of step 3, because this is where you get to kind of change your wording around. This is the third time you're really messing with this idea, so it's going to be a little bit nicer. So then we're going to keep going. All right. When texting, kids often get off topic and don't pay attention. Okay, so that's pretty easy. A good example of class happens when students text. You know what I can even combine those two sentences and say, a good example of distraction in the class happens when students text, leading them to get off topic and pay no attention to the teacher. Boom, said the same thing. Okay, but then I didn't say, and then they get yelled at or written up or even bad grades. I missed that part, so guess what? I'm going to add this. All right, I'm going to add it right here. So I said a good example of distraction in the class happens when students text, leading them to get off topic and pay no attention to the teacher. If that happens, that's a result of action. I can say a result of the cell phone is getting yelled at, written up, or I said getting yelled at, written up, or even, instead of saying bad grades, even failing a class. Right? And I want to make sure I say failing a class, because then that gives like a really negative, bad connotation, right? So then, when kids fail the class, school ends up being a waste of time, which makes the kids hate or dislike their classes. And the truth is when kids hate or dislike their classes, that leads to bigger problems, right? And I'm going to use that as my transition sentence. If they don't like their classes, it can lead to bigger problems. Boom. So now you have 1, 2. You're halfway done. And here's what's really great. We still have all to work with. Because remember, that last paragraph is only going to be 2 sentences, right? So we still have plenty of room to work with. What I like about this is I'm being able to go over it, think about it in my head, say it in a different way, because you have to say things differently. You can't keep saying things same way over and over, because that means it's redundant. And when things are redundant, people don't like them. If I'm yelling at you and you're my kid and I'm saying, and you didn't do this and you didn't do that and you need to do this and you need to do that, and when I was young and blah, 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 I'm going on and on and on and I'm using the same words, you're going to turn me off. You're not going to listen to me, right? So that's why we need to kind of switch things around a little bit, kind of put words in a different way, use a thesaurus. I don't think you're allowed to, but that's why we need to build up our vocabulary, right? So now we've got our 2 paragraphs. I'm going to go ahead and just do this 3rd paragraph and final paragraph real fast. So that way we can then say, I can show you, hey, this is the way that it goes, right? All right, so then I'm going to indent a little bit here, and I'm going to start with problems. Problems will happen if students are allowed to use their cell phones. If students are given the opportunity to use their devices without rules. And I'll just throw that in there a little bit, because then maybe later on we can say, hey, maybe if you do create rules, then there can be phone usage, right? Without rules in school. And I want to make sure that I mention school. All right? Is no bigger problem in schools than fights. I kind of switched my wordage up because the original sentence is, perhaps the biggest problem is that of fights, right? So I want to say there is no bigger problem in schools than fights.